Welcome, everybody. I am so glad. Hey, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to have a conversation about respite care. I am Katie, Wyoming's Orphan Sunday Coordinator. I'm also a foster parent and a respite care provider. We are going to start today with a little presentation from Melody on what respite care is so that we kind of have a basic idea. Melody is the local foster care coordinator for Laramie County. And then we will move into our Q&A panel. So Melody, would you like to give us a 101 on what respite care is?
Sure, I sure would. Like Katie said, I am one of the foster care coordinators here in Laramie County. And what I do is recruit and train and study and maintain the homes, the foster homes for the Department of Family Services in Laramie County here. So respite is when they can call us and they can say, I need a break, or there's an emergency that's happened, or the foster parent isn't able to take the child for a period of time. Sometimes it's just overnight, it's just a couple of hours, and ask for respite care. And one of the other foster homes that we have will do that respite care for them. In order to do foster care for respite care for our children, they have to be certified as a regular or non-relative foster care provider. So what that means is, in order to be certified, you have to go through an application process. You have to have references, positive references. We have to have fingerprints, central registry, and sex offender registries checked into, and you have to have those all there. You have to have a home study. You have to complete PRIDE training, which is pre-service training for all the foster parents. You have to be certified in C again, as long as you're trained as well. You have to do all those things just to be us. You also have to do all those things to be a respite care provider. So even if you're just going to do respite for help them term basis, you still have to go through all the other steps. They are working on trying to make that less, but they're getting pushback from that because where do you say it's okay for someone to have a foster child who's be safe? We should do background checks. We don't want to do that. It's really hard to know where. So right now, provider. So here's my plug. If you're going to be certified and go through all those things in order to do foster care or respite care, why not take all of our kids in? So that's it in a nutshell.
How long does that process usually take, Melody? Like, say somebody reached out to you today and was like, I would like to go through this process. How many weeks would it be before they would be certified?
It can go anywhere. I have 90 days. Actually, I have 120 days, but I don't take 120 days. I usually set myself a goal of 90 days. And I still get them in usually before that too. What holds it up is someone doesn't turn in a complete application, or they don't go and get the background checks done, or their references always hold us up. Their references don't come back. We have to have all 5 of them right now per policy. And then those are the kind of thing, or the training. Training will hold us up as well. We're trying really hard now with this COVID world to do the group training that used to be group in-person trainings. Now we're doing them group via Google Meets. And so far that's working out okay. People aren't as upset with it as I thought maybe they would be. So that's what stops it. they have to have a home study completed on them before they can be certified, and that's the last thing that happens. And so I would say, sometimes if they turn in their application today, let's say, I would get them in the system and put them on and start sending like the CPR and first aid training, get them on the list for the next time we have a training for the Pride training. And I would enroll them in foster parent college so they start the online part of the Pride training, which is 4 sessions. So they could realistically, if 2 homes right now that applied last month and are going to be certified by the end of this month.
So you're saying that if a family is really motivated and they do all their stuff quickly, that it could be a really fast process because you are very quick about it on your end.
Yeah,
cool.
I am.
Great.
I don't want a child to be without a home, or not to have home because I cannot get on it. People are patient with me though. They may say they want to be certified like yesterday and they'll wait till next week to do it.
Yeah. Can you speak a little bit to the need, like statistically, for more foster or respite homes in Laramie County?
In Laramie County, we have between, at any given time, we have between 180 and 210 children in foster care, and that's foster children. We have children who range between 0 to 18 years old. Female, the average is 8-year-old. Boy, I don't like to put that into it because I know out of the kids from other different ages who are also foster children. We have right now, we have like 160 homes, but probably 65 of those homes are actually relative homes. And that's what my counterpart Donna does. She does the ICPC or interstate compact homes and the relative homes. And then I do those perfect strangers who come in and are willing to take our perfect stranger kids and be certified to take them.
So you have around 200 kids-ish in care at a time and about 100 families who can take those kids. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, well, let's let everybody have a chance to introduce themselves, and then I will go through some questions that people might ask if they wanted to know more about respite care, and any of you can jump in and answer those questions. So I will start so I can break the ice. I have been in the foster care world for a while. I worked in a group home in California with kids in foster care for 6 years. So obviously that's very different than foster parenting because I'm parenting with a group of people and the children are not in my home. But there is still a lot of the parental interactions that I had. My husband and I got certified in March of this year to do respite care. And we have done respite care several times for like a few hours to up to 9 days. And we have had children ranging from 0 to 11 years old. 1 to 3 kids at a time. So that's kind of like the range that it's looked like for us. All of these things were scheduled in advance. So my husband and I had complete control over what, our schedule looked like and things like that. We had a really great time. Let's see. One of the things we really like is that not only are we like relieving foster parents of the logistical burden of caring for children, it is also, it seems in some ways, an emotional relief for us to come in and work with the family and say, hey, we see you and we support you, and that's why we want to help you with your kids. And so I think that was something that was a really blessing to us to see that we could bless other families. Also, obviously, people know that kids in foster care have issues at times because they have a lot of trauma. most of those issues are usually related to attachment. And if you're a respite care provider, you are not really triggering most of their attachment issues because you don't have a deep enough relationship with them. So you rarely experience like the behaviors that are so scary when you're doing respite care, and it's more just fun because the kid is not threatened by you in terms of the way that they've been hurt by people in the past, such as, their parents and why they ended up in care. So we just have a lot of fun. We go to Vidavoo, we go on bike rides, we do crafts. Also the other great thing that we love about it is that it's really short term. And so we can show up 100% with patience, with love, with strength, with energy, because there is at the end of the term, time for us to rest. Whereas, if you're a full-time parent every single day, you have a finite amount of parental anything because the kids take a lot of energy. And so it feels really great because we get to give our best selves to the kids and also feel really awesome about ourselves because we are able to do that. So it has been a really positive experience for us. And I would definitely recommend it to a lot of people. So that is our experience. Heather, would you like to go next?
I'm Heather. I am just starting through the foster care program to become a foster parent / respite parent. Not very far into it, just done the online training, and now I'm doing this training.
Awesome.
I have 4 kids of my own, and one's graduating this year, one has already graduated, and then 2 in high school. So junior high and high school.
Cool. So, thank you.
Yep. Yeah.
Jocelyn, would you like to share your story? I know you've had a very long journey.
It's not as long as some people's, but yeah, I'm Jocelyn. I'm a foster mom and respite care provider. Sorry, I saw Katie, somebody behind her. I thought he was behind me. I have a billion kids here. They're all over the place, so I told them to stay out, but who knows if they actually will. Anyway, respite and foster care. I did it by myself for a couple of years, and during that time had, what did I say on Sunday, 15. The most I've ever done respite for at one time, Nicole actually brought them to me. There were 5 of them, and I was by myself at the time, and there's a baby, and the oldest I think was 15. So it was a big range, and we just, we had a lot of fun. They were, on their best behavior, and we just played games, and the older kids kind of took care of the younger kids, and it was a blast. And then, I don't know, that's the oldest I've had is 15. Since my husband and I got married, so a year ago, we've done respite as well. It's been mostly smaller groups. So what I really like about respite is even if you are packed to the gills with kids, kind of like we are in our house, we have no bedrooms left. There's no space left for kids, but this living room behind me, we can stick a bed frame in here and a mattress or a tent if the kids are into that and they think it's great. They're not worried about it, and it works really well. So I like respite because we can still help even if we're at capacity. We can't take another full-time kid because we just don't have anywhere to put them, but those respite kiddos, they're fine for short term. So that's where we are.
Oh, thank you. Katie, would you like to share your experience?
Sure. We've been foster parents for 2 years, my husband and I, and before I came home to have children, I worked in social work. So we've just really been enjoying it. We had some long-term children. I just found I got pretty behind in my homeschooling and housework, and so mostly we just do respite, and it's been a blessing. The children tend to just jump into our large family, and we have a lot of fun, and I just feel like we can still help out in that way without me getting too behind, but they're worth it, of course. And we felt just privileged to get to know all the different personalities, and I enjoy having the repeat children who come again and again for respite because they know us, they know we're safe, feel comfortable in our home right away, and just jump in. One weekend we had a big group from different families and went to Vidavoo and out to eat, into the park and the library, and just I felt like I was behind the counter half the weekend serving food, but it was fun. And we just really feel like we are blessed and learn a lot from the children. And hopefully we can be a little light in their life and show them a picture of a stable family and a stable marriage and people who have issues but stop and work them out in an appropriate way. So
Yeah. Thank you. All right, Nicole.
Hello, I'm Nicole, and I have done foster care for 14, maybe 15 years. I took a little break while I was having my own kids and they were babies. I actually do a lot more of the long-term placement and usually larger families and older kids. And what I think is really unique in my world about respite is sometimes when I get a new placement and I don't have daycare figured out, different people like Katie have helped me out. Both Katies have helped me out to watch the child during the day for those first couple of days. Or one time it was the tail end of summer and it just didn't make sense for daycare, especially with COVID. And so Katie was able to, both Katies kind of pitched in and helped watch while I was at work. And it is a wonderful experience because without the team basically across the foster care community helping me fill in the gaps, I wouldn't be able to provide for these foster kids like I do on a long-term basis. And so it's, even though I'm doing it on a daily basis by myself, you feel like you're not alone when you utilize some of the people for respite, even that short-term day type stuff.
I think that's a really good transition into one of the questions that I have, which is how do you, especially, if you're single or if you take in respite kids who don't have a daycare set up because usually they have a stay-at-home mom, but you work, how does that work out logistically?
So I often can take a day or two off of work, but for the other situations, usually the caseworker or Melody, now I know who will help me out, so I just call them directly. But I can talk with Melody and say, I really want to have this placement. What can you do to help me? And the caseworker or Melody will make some phone calls and say, Katie can take them, just drop them off in the morning, pick them up after work. Here's their phone number. And it's lovely. And then, like you said, it's like they get to go to summer camp basically for the day because people are all excited. There's crafts, there's activities. It's really light and fun. And so it doesn't feel like anything other than somebody ready to hang out and have fun for the day,
So if a family had two working parents, that would not be a barrier for them to do respite care.
I've done this. The majority of my foster care career per se was before I was married and then again after. We did it for a while when we were married, but mostly I've done this as a single person, and I have always had people show up and help me. They're just excited. I think sometimes I feel like I could be a burden on them, but they're so excited. Maybe they're not in that position where they can take any more kiddos. Maybe they're full, or maybe they're just not quite there, and this is a good transition for them to kind of feel it out, see what it's like to welcome kids in their home, and then they get to come save the day for me so I can help the children, and it's kind of a win-win across the board.
Absolutely. Melody, maybe you can speak more to this one. So you said, all these background checks and stuff have to be done. What are the requirements to be a respite care provider, and what kind of things are you looking for? What if somebody had a DUI at one point, or, things like that?
The requirements to be a respite care provider are the very same requirements to be a foster care provider. Because in our case, anyway, they're taking care of children who are in the custody of the state of Wyoming and who we are responsible for, the state of Wyoming. And so that's the very same requirements. They have to complete an application. They have to do central registry background checks. And what we're looking at for in central registry is domestic violence, of course, any kind of child abuse, history of child abuse. If they haven't been in Cheyenne or in Wyoming longer than 5 years, then I have to go back to where they were before that and check that state out as well, the central registry. we look for local law enforcement, and in local law enforcement, we look for DUIs, you know, like maybe a pattern of driving without their driver's license or driving without insurance, or even the police going over to the house for domestic violence and getting calls, you know, recently, or even, you know, current, you know, recently or consistently. We look for those kind of things when it comes to local law enforcement. And then the fingerprints looks for not only for the state, but it also looks for anything, you know, nationwide. And that is looking for, and that I've had a misdemeanor conviction. But so it's going to look for domestic violence again, jail time, prison time. You know, those career registry is done in the state as sex offender registry as well as the national, and it's pretty self-explanatory.
So do people
They have to complete and be certified in CPR and first aid. Sorry.
do people with all of these things, like
I was just going to say they have to.
Like if somebody has a criminal history of some sort, does that automatically disqualify you? Melody.
It depends on what it is. I have to say, when it comes to relatives, we're going to be lax on that. So if we have a grandma that's a grandchildren and she has had a DUI last 4 years, you know, 4 years ago, then we're going to probably be a lot more lax about that. But honestly, if we have a foster parent or an applicant who's going to take care of just not relative children, and they have a DUI, I'm going to look a lot harder on that, because I don't know them and I don't know these kids, and I either err on the side of caution, to be honest. So it could, you know, something like that could disqualify them.
But
the
not
key
on
with foster care is it's not automatic and it's not a right. So we can turn somebody down anytime for any reason. I think for our program, say they don't do it any time they want to and quit, you know, and just say it's not for them. It's not what the program was going to be. They just don't feel like it's a good match either. So we don't have to really have, you know, they can't come up and go to the governors and say, well, I want to be a foster parent and she's going to make me do it, because that's not going to happen. If we just don't feel good, it's not going to happen. Most of the time, most people don't apply, or they ask when they call to talk to me about applying in the first place, they'll say, I have this in my background. It happened 10 years ago, you know, whatever it is. And they'll talk to us about it. And so it's usually not a problem.
More of a logistical question. How is respite care arranged? How do you know what kids you're doing respite for? Do you get a say in that? That kind of thing. Anyone can jump in.
Laramie County is most of the time I will. Oh, did you want it from me?
Well, anyone.
Okay, sorry. I just send out an email and people respond to it and they say, I'll do it. And then I will give the list. I'll send an email with a list of the people who will do it to the worker. If the worker doesn't care, then they'll just pick, you know, someone randomly, and I'll send them an email saying, you know, thanks for doing respite care, and here's how to get a hold of the foster care providers, make the final arrangement. Yeah, an email to everybody else saying, thanks, we found somebody.
Does respite care ever get arranged? Like Nicole was saying, she calls people directly at times. And so that means that sometimes families, it seems can build relationships with each other and set that up together, and that would be fine, correct?
Yes. Well, to a point. If it's something that they've done, or I may ask, is there someone that you would prefer, you know? And if they say, yes, I would prefer the Jones family to do this, then, you know, then I will call or email the Jones family first before I email anybody else. And, you know, and we'll make the arrangements that way. But for the foster parent to make their own arrangements, that is kind of discouraged. And the reason why is because I have to know where all these children are at all times. So if there was an emergency, I have to have a way of knowing where they're at. And I do pretty good at knowing which foster home they're in, but it's really, I didn't even know they were on respite. So I have to write the contracts for the respite, and that helps me keep track of it. And also I put those children on my calendar in order to keep track of where they're at. So I'll put on the calendar, you know, Johnny went to the Yim's house the 24th through the 31st. And I have that on my calendar, so I can look at the calendar and know where he's at. So I need to at least know if they're going to make their own arrangements. I need to at least know where they're at. And the other part is we do have a capacity, and we can't always go over the capacity. We certainly can't go way over the capacity when it comes to respite care or regular care.
You mentioned contracts. Is respite care compensated?
Yes. It is compensated. It is compensated at $30 a day. And it used to be up to $60 a day for specialized children. But I just sent out a email that those rates may change, probably are going to change. So I might or something.
All right. So panelists, especially when you have new kids coming to your home, how do you know, like, how much information do you get about the child, and how do you feel prepared in terms of caring for a new child you've never met before?
I'd say sometimes you don't know anything. Sometimes you have a whole lot of information, and sometimes you don't know their actual name for a year. That's probably not as common. But as far as being ready, once you've had a couple of sets of kids, you kind of have the clothes for whoever you might get. You have the beds for whoever you might get. You just kind of accumulate gear. I mean, and whoever you don't have in your house, then you put that gear, in storage or trade it to another foster family. But you accumulate stuff, and people are great with donating that to you when they hear you're beginning foster care. And so I would say you start out not so prepared, but after you've been at it for a little while, you have everything you need for whoever you might get, really. I mean, kids need pajamas and clothes, and I have totes of like ages, 0 to 18 months boys, 0 to 18 months girls, and or make a run to Once Upon a Child or call somebody else, and there's such a great foster network that if you don't have what you need, you can get it pretty quick, usually from another foster family.
Well, and most of the kids that come into respite care come with like a bag for the day or the week or whatever. So it's not like they come with nothing.
That's true. I was thinking for regular foster care. Yeah, respite, I've never had kids not come with everything they need, actually. They usually come very well stocked.
And also, fun plug, the Cheyenne Foster Closet provides you free stuff for anybody that you need to care for if you're a foster and adoptive parent in our community. So you just contact them and say, hey, I have a new kid, I need these things, and they will fill you up. So it's a great resource. Let's see. How disruptive is this to daily life? Like, can they come to baseball practice with you and the rest of your kids? Or can they go to church with you? Can you still have friends over? Like, how much does this impact your day-to-day living?
We try to just, have the children jump in with our family in our normal day. Obviously, if they need naps and none of our naps, that changes things. But also, some behavior issues, they might, if they do struggle in respite, if they're here longer, or just some children struggle from the beginning, even in respite, but we found it to be no problem to just go on with our normal day. Sometimes we haven't gotten as much homeschooling done if we have a toddler or baby, but we've been able to, I have a few teen girls and preteen girls, so we've been able to split our days. So I'll do school in the morning and they'll do it in the afternoon, and we'll sort of switch off helping care for the children. That's worked well. And as far as your other question, I was going to say Melody was great about encouraging us to ask questions when we do get a phone call. So mostly I've gotten good information, but I usually ask extra questions about, because we have younger children, biological children, and just to make sure it's going to be a safe and good fit. And it's really gone well.
Do you ever interact with biological family in respite care? I ask because I know that, people are weird about things, and that I think that could be a fear going into this. And so as people are thinking, oh, do I want to do respite care? Oh, but are they going to be parents? Are they going to be coming over to my house? And so my experience has been, no, you don't have any interaction with the biological family, and just, checking that across the board.
I think across the board,
They might.
I think
Is that
across
right?
the board, the caseworkers are always very supportive of your wishes. I mean, every once in a blue moon, there could be that there has established a level of comfort where that foster parent does communicate in some circumstances with the biological parents, or have something to do with the visitation. And so that maybe in respite, they might ask you, hey, there is a scheduled visit. I usually meet mom at Maverick. Are you comfortable doing that? So nobody puts you in a position you're not comfortable with. They have tools and resources that they will utilize if you are not comfortable. And so if it does happen, nobody's going to put you in a position you aren't comfortable with. Everybody really works around individual levels of comfort. And honestly, your other question about if we go about our everyday life, I have a very active sports family. We do hockey, we do traveling baseball. I got my last actual placement when I was up at the lake on a baseball camping trip. I drove them all the way out to the lake, and the girls' first night with me was camping. And so we've had whole baseball teams throw birthday parties last minute for kids, and everybody goes out and brings them treats and presents, and you would think they've known them forever when they just showed up a couple hours ago. People around you embrace what you're doing, and they want a piece of it. They enjoy it. And so my kids go everywhere. If they've been with me 2 minutes or 10 months, they are a part of it, and you wouldn't know any difference. Everybody around me in my world treats them like they've been there forever.
Yeah, we've had a couple of birth moms here and connected with them, and some birth grandmothers, and one birth dad was here and just had a great visit with his daughter. And I felt so privileged to be a part of it. It was really neat. We kind of helped her get comfortable with him, and I've never had any trouble so far. They've been positive, and the one birth mom just was so thankful for everything we were doing, so that was nice.
What happens if you have a crisis? Like you think you're going to be getting this easy kid, oh, it's only for a couple days, everything's going to go smooth. What happens if there's a big crisis and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'm doing?
We had a boy come with, and I realized right after he came, he had lice. And so I actually had, his birth mom was going to have a visit with him and come here. So I actually wrote her and said, is it okay if I cut his hair really short? And she gave me permission. And then when she came to pick him up, he told me after, my mom likes my hair, and he was so excited. That meant so much to him that his mom liked his haircut. And so that really helped me, because then I wasn't so worried about my other children getting it. And, you know, it took some time, but he was worth it, and it worked out. And actually, my children have been my saviors sometimes when we've had some really high energy boys that have been a challenge, and my children just wear them out playing games with them. And so that really helps. We're a team, and I really couldn't do it without my children. So
Also, there's always on-call available if it's really a big deal, and Melody is almost always available, even just if by an email. And so you'll develop relationships with other foster parents. You can call them and say, my goodness, because sometimes just taking a deep breath and kind of processing it before you react, you step back and you're like, it might not be as big of a crisis. This kid is going through a lot. And when you can look at it from that lens, you know, sometimes it passes, but you do have a lot of tools. And really, in the worst case scenario, you always have access to Melody or on call, and they will help you through anything.
And I can say I had a 6-year-old, and she, you know, you think, oh, 6-year-old, how hard can it be? And it was pretty easy most of the time, but she did have a big crisis during a visit. And her worker ended up coming out to my house and spending some time with her. And so I just felt really supported, like, oh, you know, I was not in this alone. It's not like, well, you said yes to her, so I hope you can figure this out. It was, you know, the worker came out, and there was a couple other workers too that were supportive. So it was really, really positive experience.
yeah, we had a couple incidents. One little gal decided she was leaving because I think I told her to take her plate and that she could have the snack after she took her plate, and she didn't want to. So we tried to use humor and say, oh, you forgot your skateboard, you forgot this, and thought that, oh, she's not going to really leave, she's too little, but she did. So we followed her, and then, you know, the worker just helped us over the phone and eventually got it worked out by bedtime, thankfully. But another incident was kind of neat, that a boy just completely melted down and was screaming. And my son, who used to have RAD and ODD, thank the Lord, he's better, but he stayed with him. I said, I'm going to go just right outside the room because the screaming was really loud. And I said, I'll come back and sit by your bed for you to go to sleep when you're ready. But my son was so calm and stayed with him. And I heard him talking to him and saying, well, you know, this, you did this, and that was the consequence. And he just really calmed down. And it was so neat to see my son helping him more than I did, because he knew how it felt a little bit to be in his position. So.
What is the commitment level? Like, do you have to take in a kid a certain amount of days a month? Or if you decide to sign up for this, do you have to like be doing it regularly for a whole year before you can back out because it's not working? You know, things like that.
No, they'll keep calling you. As long as you're active, they'll keep calling you. So if you say no, I've heard that fear. If you say no, you'll never get called again. And that's not the case at all. You'll probably get called tomorrow. But yeah, there's no commitment level. I mean, if you have the capacity and it feels right, even if I do have capacity and for some reason just am not quite sure that that situation sounds like something we want to do, I mean, I say no. So, I mean, I just kind of go with my gut. And if it sounds like a good situation and feel like we need to do that, then we say yes. And a lot of times we say no. So, and that's fine. Melody continues to email me. So.
What is one myth about foster or respite care that you would like to correct? Nobody. I will start. I feel like people have this idea that there are foster kids and then there are regular kids. And as if like there's a big sign on there for I'm a foster kid, I am dangerous. And you could definitely tell if you looked at a kid versus a regular kid, they're just kids. and they're not terrifying. They're not, you know, little dragons hiding in little children's bodies. So part of it, you know, I think there's a lot of fear before stepping into foster care because you think, oh, but they're foster kids. No, they're just kids, and you meet them and you're like, oh, I was afraid of this. This is a child. So I feel like that's one myth that I wish, you know, there wasn't such stigma attached to being a foster kid.
I agree. I think one of the myths that bother me is that when people say they're just doing it for the money. I mean, God knows no one is doing it for the money. There's no way. These kids, most people don't even break even, you know, by the time they'll each have a house at home sometimes, you know. No one is doing it for the money. It's very much they're doing it because it's in their heart. They feel like the calling, it's important to them. They want to make a difference. They want to give back. You know, they maybe had an experience when they were younger with foster care or, you know, or adoption or abuse or neglect or whatever those, you know. So they're doing it for all the right reasons. And none of those reasons are ever for the money.
Yeah, my experience with Cheyenne foster community is just a group of people with really big hearts, and it's a really great community to be a part of.
I guess something else, people think you get stuck with whatever foster kids get offered to you. So like myself, when I was single, I limited it to kids under 12 because I know when I was 12, I was a big kid and my brothers were big kids, and I didn't want to be in a position where I was in danger or couldn't handle a kid that was bigger than me or, you know, something like that. So you can always limit it according to, Katie mentioned she's got biological babies and it has to be a safe situation for them. I have the same limitations. You know, they can't be violent towards my children, and I have to be able to keep my existing kids safe. And so you're able to say no and put limits on it if you're only open to teenagers, if you're only open to babies, if you're only open to, I don't know what other limits you would have. I mean, like school age kids, because you work and they have to be going to school during the day. That's okay. You can do that and make it work for you. So I guess that's a myth I would like to correct.
And I don't know if this would be considered a myth so much, but I think it's really interesting because I think there are some really hard facts where you need to have certain things that you can or cannot have in your home for safety reasons. I find more often than not when I say, hey, I'm going to take 7 and under because my kids are a certain age, then I end up with these teenagers. And one time I got a boy that was 16 that was bigger than me. I'm telling you, we had the most fun ever. Like, the personalities come in, the dynamics of our home change. Like, we have had some teenage groups where I said, no, probably can't, and then tried it, and we love the teenagers. You do have to take a little extra safety precautions when you bring in any kids a little bit older than yours, and it's not always going to work out as well as it has for us. But on the surface, I think that we've wanted one thing, and then we get something different, and somehow somebody's looking out for us because we get what we need, not necessarily what we always think. And so I think it's interesting to point out that people are hesitant for whatever reason, but if you have hesitation, maybe just give it a try. Sometimes you're blessed with somebody knowing much more than you know on what's best for you. And I guess that's been our experience. The boys and I kind of do this as a team, and we talk about what we think might work for us. And we found out that we didn't have a clue, and what we got was better than what we could have ever asked for.
Yeah, I find that too, just taking each case at a time, you know, and thinking about, would this fit for this season in our lives? But I too thought I would only do babies and toddlers, and we've taken had 11, 12, and 13-year-olds, and yeah, it's a blessing. There are a lot of positives too about the older ones. Usually they can take care of all their toileting needs and that kind of thing, and yeah, they're fun. They're forming their ideas, and we've enjoyed having some of the older children.
What do you wish you had known before becoming certified?
sometimes I think ignorance is bliss, and some things I'm glad I didn't know, because if I had thought through some of the experiences we've been through that were difficult, I might not have done it, but actually we all learned something and we all grew. And I feel like, it's great for my children, especially to learn to love, traumatized children who've been through a lot, and to have grace and patience with them and make a sacrifice. One of my daughters was in tears once because a girl younger than her, but kind of figured out how to push her buttons, and she was upset. And so we talked about how this is a sacrifice, but they're worth it. It's worth making this sacrifice to help them during a time when they need it.
All right, we're going to end with this last really fun question. What is your favorite thing about being a foster or respite parent?
I love the chaos. My house is chaos all the time, and it is so fun. Like, there's the best personalities, the most wonderful memories, way too much dirty laundry. But at the end of the day, you go to bed and you're like, I nailed it. Right now I'm helping more kids than I've ever had the pleasure to help. And so I have several different kiddos from different families. And then I have my two boys, and I'm just like, I go to bed every night very fulfilled. There's no doubt that I have a messy house and am doing all the right things for a lot of kids. And so there are ups and downs and there are challenges. And when you put it in perspective and you reach out to the people that help you productively process things, you get through it all. But at the end of the day, just like, it's awesome. It's really awesome. And people look at me and they're like, man, you are having so much fun and I envy your life. And I'm thinking, well, then step up and do it. This is awesome. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, I like everything about it. I love having kids at home. I love that it's loud, and I love it is fun, and you do feel fulfilled. I mean, every night you're way more exhausted than you probably were before, but it's just, every day that you're making an actual solid difference. I mean, there's no other job in the world besides parenting where every single day you made a difference, and you make a huge difference. I mean, like Katie said, you're showing these kids what a stable home looks like, what a stable marriage looks like, what stable relationships look like, how to deal with a bad day, or how to deal with not liking each other, or how to deal with disagreements in a healthy way. And so you're making those building blocks for these kids. They can go back to their normal lives or any other future part of their lives and have those building blocks and just know what normal healthy relationships look like. So it's a really cool job.
Yeah, I want to jump in on what you said. Somebody told me a long time ago, like, I couldn't do that because I would have too much attachment, or I would have a hard time letting go. And I do think I take a lot of pride in just showing these kids, hey, this is what you deserve. This is what you can accomplish, and teaching them kind of how to demand that. So even if they go back home, they know now that they deserve food, and they deserve safety, and they deserve a bed at night. And so no matter where they end up in life, I am forever changing their future. And I love when I start seeing that. I love when I hear them talk to another kid and encouraging them to use their words, or some of these things that you just watch them grow so much right in front of you. Or I've even watched kids go on a visit with their mom and use these words or these phrases or talk about kindness. And it's really rewarding when you see kind of what you've put in place, that they're spreading that love.
One of the things I like the most is just knowing I'm helping another foster family get a break and refresh and be more ready the next week to come back and take care of those children.
I love all the new experiences. A lot of kids who come from hard places, they haven't had a lot of opportunity to be a kid, and there's a lot of firsts that they haven't experienced. And so getting to be there for those moments is just so priceless, and getting to give them the space where they feel safe enough to play and to be a child is so rewarding and so fun, you know. And so I just feel so privileged that I've gotten to be there for firsts for these children, and for moments of joy and moments of safety that they might not have had a lot of opportunity in their life to have before. So that concludes our panel, unless anyone has lasting thoughts. Okie dokie. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys spending your time doing this. Melody, what should somebody do if they want to pursue becoming a respite or foster parent?
They can call me at 307-777-5181 and just leave a message saying that they're interested in doing that. Or they can get on our state of Wyoming website, and they can say that they're interested in doing foster care or respite care, and they will eventually send me a copy of that email. So, or they can talk to any other foster parent, and then that information that you don't see a lot of advertisements or anything around this area, because those people right now who've been talking, your dentalists, are the best advertisements I have. They, you know, they put it in, and I am honored to work with every one of you.
Thank you. Again, just in case anyone missed that, the number is 307-777-5181. You can also email her at melody.waters@wyo.gov. And I know for myself, I would be happy to be contacted by anyone wanting to know more information about any of these things. My email is kyim@bethany.org. And we hope that you guys are ready and excited to join the wonderful world that we are a part of. Thank you.